FM, Season 3, Episode 5. This one's an interview episode. Rob chatting to Irish synth artist NiElsir. Hope you enjoy.
Sometimes weave some of this like little ramble into the beginning of the song as Dolan's She Said is playing. So, so we can imagine a bit
Great
of
tune.
Yeah, great tune.
Yeah.
Well, I'd say, Tom, you got a fan already. Okay, so we'll kind of sort of kick off here. NiElsir. I'm here with NiElsir.
Hey, Rob.
We've been trying to make this happen for a little while, and it's my fault, typically, that we haven't got it done for a few months, but here we are, and it's a sunny Wednesday morning. It's about 9:30 in the morning where I am, and you're about an hour ahead, aren't you?
I'm an hour ahead, 10:30, but it's just an hour sunnier here, so it's all good. Thanks for having me, Rob. I'm looking forward to the chat.
Oh, me too, man. It's an absolute pleasure. Love your stuff, and so do we all. And I think the STV, the VSTV piece, the Stratford Ct, I get my words out, would have introduced you to a lot more people as well. So we'll cover all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So first things first, man, what are you doing in Spain?
Well, yeah, it's a bit, I'm an Irish man out of place here in some ways, but I do live in the north of Spain, so it's not too warm for someone who's not really adapted to that. So it's a city called Burgos, which is not a big touristy town. It's maybe 200,000 population. It's quite nice. So I've been here almost 6 years, which I find hard to believe, just saying that out loud.
6 years.
Yeah.
So a lot of your work, a lot of your output has been made in Spain?
Everything I've released has been made here.
Way.
Yeah.
I didn't realise. There I was thinking you were out there in the fields of Ireland somewhere in a beautiful cottage with a studio inside it.
I wish in some ways, no, but I really like it here in Spain. So going back over 10 years or so, I was living in London and I met a girl, and as the story starts, there we go. And we were living in London together for a while, and after, let's say, 4 or 5 years working in London, both of us were working and living there together. She suggested going back to Spain, and I was pretty open to the idea. And
why not?
6 years later, here I am.
Dude, sunshine, sunny climes. It's
different pace of life, going from working full time in London to just arriving in Spain without the language at the time. And
did you pick it up though?
I'm not comfortable to a level I would like. When I first got here, I did like night classes, and I picked it up reasonably quick at the start, and then there was the lockdowns and all those things happened not long after I was learning. And this is my own fault. So my partner and I, we speak in English. So like my world is in this, it's in English. I speak in English. We watch maybe TV in English. I work in English. So for that year and a half when there was lockdowns, and they were quite strict here in Spain, I wasn't speaking much, and I kind of fell backwards a bit. And so since then, I haven't gone back and studied night classes. So I lost a lot, but I can get around. It's just if I was in the bank talking about a mortgage, I just wouldn't have the words.
You bring your wife up or partner up or whatever and say, can you come and
I need help. Here? Yeah. But ordering a beer or ordering some food, I'm perfect.
Dude, the essentials. That is all you need to know.
I've got the essentials nailed. So yeah, it's.
Can I ask what you used to do in London?
So I studied engineering for quite a while, and I went from my last year of study. I was in Edinburgh.
Beautiful. And
from Edinburgh, I got working in a graduate program in an energy company, quite a big energy company. And long story short, I ended up working it's a funny role. It was like account management, but I was a sales engineer, which would be like the easiest way of describing it. So you're an engineer, but you work in the commercial side. So I worked with a lot of banks in Canary Wharf.
Wow. You were in the city.
Oh, it was proper city, yeah. It was,
oh man, you were.
I felt every minute of it too. It was.
Imagine you were top hat, dashing from place to place with a.
Dashing is right, but the top hat isn't quite. I didn't manage the top hat.
It's because I recently watched Mary Poppins. That's what's slurring my.
No, so it was nice. It was nice work. I actually really enjoyed it. Just the hours were tough, and the commuting in and out was pretty tough. So I would kind of loosely design some solutions for their energy requirement. It was normally like hot and cold air and hot and cold water, and it was all controlled side, so control engineering. And I would put like a price together and a quotation. I would be dealing with that side of the customer things, but I never actually did the engineering work. So I would hand it off to the team that I worked with, the engineering team, and I would just be kind of the representative on that side for the client, which was...
But you knew, because you were trained as an engineer, you had the luxury or the benefit of understanding that you could talk the talk.
You could talk it, but you couldn't exactly pick up the tools and open up the control panel in the basement of a bank and just start going crazy.
That's someone else with a big beard. And
that wasn't my responsibility. So
to do that.
Interesting line of work, and was I didn't dislike it in any way. I worked with some really nice people there, and it was an interesting time. But I definitely aged myself a lot in the 5 years I was there.
You can't see him, but he looks very boyish.
I don't always feel it, but yeah.
So at that point, were you making any music whatsoever? Was NiElsir a figment in your imagination?
That was more or less in the imagination. So I don't want to get too back in the past here or too deep and put people to sleep here, but I, as a teenager, as a kid, and I grew up like making music, awful stuff, but I was always doing something, and I was very sure that I was either going to leave school at like 15 or 16 and do either carpentry and music. Right, I was doing that, and because I did
engineering,
two things I liked, music and carpentry. At the time, I was like 15, and I got convinced to stay in school, which was good. I started coming into my own in school at the age of 16. Better late than never, I suppose. But
yeah, we will find ourselves.
Yeah, and I enjoyed studying from that point onwards. But I decided then, which I don't know was the right thing to do, but I didn't want music to become a job, because it was, to me, that was like, this is what I do after the day of school or what after.
Right.
It was.
Did you think it would strip the fun out of it?
I thought it would. Yeah, at the time, not that I had much experience with that as a kid, but I decided I wouldn't do it full time. I wouldn't go down that route, or just keep it as a hobby. Little did I know that university and life and full-time working and all that would be so engrossing in time that I just never have a moment to do it again.
When am I going to do the fun stuff?
Yeah. So I got a bit too busy, and I did almost nothing for, I would say, 8 years. I mean, I opened up like Ableton, the DAW I use. I probably opened that up 10 times over the space of 8 years, and it was very little, maybe a weekend here and there. Yeah, so that was always in the back of my mind. It was like I had a little keyboard and I had a small bit of equipment that I lugged around the place as I moved around the country in the UK and stuff. And I was always thinking, man, I'm never going to get time to do this.
I've got to open this up at some point.
Yeah.
Just carrying it around like a pretend producer.
Yeah, and there's another thing. I'm not someone that can kind of sit down in a spare hour and start working on songs. It's like I need 2 weeks free with nothing else on, no distractions, to kind of get into to allow my mind to get into the point where it's like obsessed over what I'm working on, and then I'll see it through over the course of a few weeks, and then maybe I'll take a couple of weeks off after that.
So you dedicate a lot of time. You have to be in that zone.
I can't jump in and out. I find it very difficult to work in that way. So
proper auteur.
Yeah, it's tough. I would actually prefer to be able to jump in and out here and there, but it doesn't work. I've tried it. I just can't keep my focus, So I have to get to a point where there's not much going on in my day. The day's free. I don't have crazy distractions in my personal life, and I've got a few days where I can say, right, I can invest in getting deep into what I'm doing right now, and if I need to spend the next 3 days, getting this potential song to a point where I'm going to be able to finish it. I need
it's
to
all or nothing.
100% with me. Yeah, I can't just dip into it, and it's very difficult for the way I work. So
when you arrived in Spain, did that allow you the time and space, and did you reach your dream, as you mentioned on Bandcamp a little while ago, to turn this into a more or less full-time thing?
I guess I have. I've never really felt like I never really felt like I've arrived, if that makes sense. But long story short, I left England, moved to Spain, and I wasn't sure what to do at the time, but I was doing the Spanish courses and I said, look, I think it was the end of 2019. I decided, I wrote it down on the front page of a diary. I'm going to go
manifest it.
Yeah, I'm going to go and give this a proper go for the next 2 years. Right, and that was the plan, and I was going to spend money I had saved up to what's the word now? Kind of support myself. Yeah, live off over that time, so I didn't have to put pressure on myself that I need to be working part time or I need to be earning money doing this. It was just, here's my time, and I'll see how it goes. And I fully believed that it would be, I will have 0 results, or I will have all the results. I never
all or nothing mentality. Again.
I never saw there was a middle ground where things might get a bit more grey.
Maybe grey area.
Yeah. And so to me, it was very easy to say, I'll do 2 years. And at the end of the 2 years, it would be very easy to say, this is not working, or this is working fantastic. But I got to a point where it was this is working, but it's a bit slower than I imagined, and it's a bit harder to write music than I thought it would be, and I'm not quite as productive as I imagined I could be. And but it's enough progress to kind of keep you going a bit longer. So I've been kind of in that zone for
dopamine hits.
Yeah, just
getting somewhere,
but really slowly. So I've been doing that. I've been living. That's the dream, I guess. I've been doing that since that day. So that's almost 4 years.
That's amazing. So your whole so it has. Did you always want to make the kind of music that you wanted to make that you're making now? And did the sunny, climate of Spain make you want to do more that kind of chill wave? I guess, to put a label on it.
Oh God, so the music I release is just what I release in a way. It's not the only thing I make, or not the only thing that I would like to make. Okay. I do sometimes just open up and make demos that have nothing to do with this genre, even in the slightest. It'd be quite different.
You've got a secret alter ego.
I don't, though. I don't release them. I just have them.
Music.
Yeah. Banjo wave is
that probably exists. Alpha Chrome is
maybe it's so I make things in other genres that old school hip hop is a sound I've always liked.
Nice.
I like a bit of jazz.
I can't see it, but on my shelf behind me, listeners, is a collection of 90s hip hop, golden era.
Oh, that's got a big win in my heart there. That sound,
dude. Oh, very good.
So going way back, I'm going off on a tangent here, but going way back to 2005, I bought an MPC 1000, and I thought it was the coolest thing in the world.
Yes.
So I used to make hip hop beats from records.
No way. Release them just for me. Literally stick them on SoundCloud.
The thing is, the sample clearance is just a headache I don't want to deal with on a lot of those, but.
Many stories to testify that, like 3 Feet High and Rising, only just being really clear.
Oh, that's only just a few months back,
And they had to lose a bunch of samples as well.
Of course.
Was it Cool Breeze on the Rocks, whatever, just completely
I'm not sure with that one. Yeah,
it's that's just like all the samples,
it's
the rock, and anybody in the audience ever been hit by a car, all that stuff had to be cut.
Yeah, it's a tough world, that. It's hard, because once you commit to a sound and a sample, it's difficult to replace that. You're going to lose something by replacing a sample, or...
Yeah, I think so. Look at Paul's Boutique and Beastie Boys, almost bankrupted themselves.
Yeah.
Then Check Your Head was amazing. Here's a side question then. Do you think vaporwave, and particularly Barber beats, and their sort of fragrant use of sampling and just ripping off wholesale, is that kind of doing away with that sort of DIY punk ethic? What does that mean for sampling, and what does that mean for clearance?
So it's not something I deal with now because I don't use samples, but I know it's a lot easier to clear samples today than it would have been years ago. I've seen things advertised where you can kind of go onto a website and you type in the song you want and you can kind of buy the credit there and then. It's so perhaps people are doing that, or maybe they just risk it and just say, look, if I get famous off a song that has a sample in it and they come knocking on my door 10 years time, well, I'm famous, I can deal with it. I'll deal with it then, That's I do believe
rappers do.
Yeah, I believe that happens quite often. And if you think about the sheer amount of songs that get released every day now, it's just
it's phenomenal. I sit in an office sometimes with some young people, and they have Radio 1 on, and I'm like, just sampling something that just came out 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, and then it maybe transpires that it was actually 20 years ago, and I feel really old. But it feels like it just comes around.
It's all the dance tunes from the 90s have been redone. Like if you turn the radio on now,
2000s.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So it's a funny one, the sampling. So I think it's fair enough. I've always, if someone sampled me, how would I feel about it? I think is the question. If they sampled me and became famous and gave me no credit, I would probably be a bit.
You would come for them.
Maybe not come for them. I would be crying myself to sleep, maybe. But if maybe I'm talking because I'm a small independent person, and you'd feel a bit like taken advantage of in a way, maybe. But if you're a megastar, I mean, what difference does it really make if they get an extra 10,000 in royalties in a year when they're earning who knows how much? I don't know. Not that it changes the fact that taking someone's content is okay because they're huge. It's not really, but I mean, in some ways, artists their careers have been reborn from being sampled again. And,
absolutely,
it happens all the time. So.
And I think people do go back and revisit and explore. It's like, what's that? What's that sample? What's that sound?
I'll tell you one thing. Talking about old school hip hop and 90s hip hop and that, I was obsessed with that sound for a long time growing up. And there was a website called Who Samples. It's probably still around. Yeah. So
it's still around. Yeah. I still visit it on occasion.
Half of the songs I listened to were the originals that I found because they were sampled. And
they've released a few, I think, on DVD, vinyl, maybe certainly Spotify playlist. You can find the Who sampled. Yeah. It's just the original, like the stuff that Tribe Called Quest used to sample, for example.
Oh, so
brilliant,
good.
Man.
Yeah. Mini Ripperton samples. I got into all that from Tribe Called Quest. It was
same.
Yeah, so good.
I know no one's going to be interested and no one can even see it, but it's my Chuck D signed.
Wow.
This day in rap and hip hop.
So nice, hardback. You still got the cellophane wrapper on, or is it not?
No, it's just crackling a bit. Can you hear that? Can you hear that, listeners? With a nice Chuck D. Little signature there on the thing, but yeah. Oh man, well we could go on forever about 90s hip hop. Maybe that's a whole another podcast. But you don't sample, and you chose to make the kind of music you do. What were your influences? What brought you into kind of? Do you call it chill wave? Is that the name you call it?
I guess so. I guess I would, but I don't obsess about what it's called because I would go crazy. I don't really know. It's I guess loosely I would say chill wave or just electronic music, I suppose. But if you say electronic music, people think you're talking about like electronic dance music because that's kind of the default. So what got me into this world is a funny one. So if I went back quite a bit, 2008, 9, 10, those type of years, I was listening to and like collecting music from the likes of, I don't know if you know Air and
I can kind of hear that influence.
Yeah, Birds of Canada, Moby kind of blew my mind as a kid. Some of those sounds, the early Moby sounds.
Remember that one sample Twin Peaks, talking about samples. Scruff, yeah.
So all those sounds were like kind of, I was 16, 17, 18, I'd be listening to this stuff. And I thought that was amazing. It was sounds I couldn't really, you'd hear it, and to me it was so different and new that I was like, how are they even doing this? Like, what are they doing? Sure. That was how I felt. And then
how are they creating these soundscapes?
Yeah, it was kind of new to me, and I was always interested in that, and that kind of drew me in a way. And then around 2012, I left Ireland and I went to Edinburgh for a year, which was fantastic. And a friend of mine, Adrian, shout out to Adrian, he hooked me up with Dive by Tycho. Right? So he sent me the link to this album. Maybe he sent me the MP3 rip of the album or something. He sent me something that I had access to this album. And
it may or may not have been legal.
Yeah, probably not at the time. But I remember playing it, like, I'm going to check this out. He's been talking about this guy and Tycho and this album. And I was like, okay, I'll check it out. So I used to study in, there was like an IT lab in the university, and it was 24 hours. So like my timetable was maybe during the week, I would go in there at like 10 p.m. and then do a few hours work till like maybe 1 or 2 a.m. That was like my schedule.
Your learning time. That was when you could get stuff done.
Yeah, kind of a night owl, I guess. And that was, I quite liked it. It was just calm in the library or the lab at those hours. And I had Dive, that album, straight through for like multiple weeks on repeat. Man. And that was like, what is this?
Head on it.
Yeah, what is this sound? It was like so different, and so like it was a sound that I would be kind of imagining would be the perfect electronic sound to me at the time. It was I was blown away by the
solid
album.
Stuff, man.
So that was 2012, and I mean I did nothing for a long time after that, but I would say that was probably the introduction to sort of this genre. And then the same guy, Adrian.
Adrian, you got a lot to thank Adrian for.
I do, yeah. The same guy, years later, sent me a picture of a cassette tape. This is probably 2019. He sent me a picture of a cassette tape and a link to the songs, right? And it was an album by Alison, who's like a big name in this genre.
We love Alison here, yeah.
Great guy. I'm friends with him now, which is a full circle. Yeah, he's really helped me out over the years. He's been good. So he sent me a link to that album, which was Space Station, and in particular a song. I just pressed play on a song called Warm, and I was like, "What is this?
What is this?"
Yeah, I loved it. So I found Warm by Alison, and probably the same day or the day later, I found another song by Memorex Memories.
Oh yeah,
Sean, another guy who I chat to now. So it's it all comes around. It was Thanks for Listening. So both of those songs got me, I would say, they dragged me into this sort of subgenre where
not kicking and screaming by the sounds.
Definitely not kicking and screaming. Yeah, I loved it. Yeah, it was just the songs are. It was a different sound. It's not overly complicated. I think the simplicity of it was nice in a way. Not to downplay that. Like the simplicity is more difficult to me than.
Oh, for sure.
Making something sound good that's simple is far harder than making a complicated thing sound reasonable, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So yeah, those songs really drew me in from the start for me, and it's kind of been from there. You know, I don't really sit down to try and replicate those sounds or anything like that. Not at all. It's just they got me to this point, and when I start working on sounds, it's just a case of I will. I guess I make a lot of demos, right? So, and by demos I mean awful
complete songs. No,
we're talking like 20-second loops of just random ideas, and maybe I'll make 40 demos for every one song that gets done.
Okay.
At least I would.
But that's kind of your process.
Yeah, I'm just writing demos, and
right.
I'll maybe make 2 in a day, and the next morning it's always I wake up and think, oh, that was sounding pretty good last night. You know, I wake up, what was I thinking yesterday? This is awful.
That was terrible.
Yeah. So I call it like audio beer goggles. You know, it's you get into it and you think you're sounding great, and the next morning it's like, no, that is not good.
Kick it straight out of bed and say you got to get to work.
So I just keep doing that until the morning I wake up and I go, oh, that actually does sound okay, and then that's probably a song that I will end up finishing. It's
right, so that's the genesis of it.
Exactly. I keep searching
like
for
picking up the guitar and strumming something and recording it, and then thinking, I'm going to turn that into a song.
Yeah, I guess it's the same idea. I mean, sometimes it comes from tinkling around the guitar, or most of the ideas come from just accidental, like making a sound on the keyboard and like something almost accidentally, and I'll just record that, and then suddenly you say, oh, how did I get here? You know, it's been 2 weeks.
I haven't left my room.
Yeah, basically it's that. Yeah, you just get into
a wonders where I am.
Flow stage for a few weeks, and that's where they come from for me. So it's yeah, I've gone off on a tangent there, but yeah, it's
no, this is good. This is what they want to hear. Side question from Enzo then of Timeshare 94, 3-piece suites, and of course My Pet Flamingo and Time Slave label. He's a busy man, is Enzo. And I've just heard some demos of a new Timeshare 94 album, which is sounding really good, actually, hot off the press. So he asks, like, how do you see chillwave, if that's what we're calling it, fitting into the wider vaporwave scene, or if it does at all, or maybe you wouldn't even, put that label on it. Do you think it sits outside, or do you think it's part of vaporwave?
I don't think. Well, I don't think my sound is really vaporwave.
Particularly probably as you're creating everything. There is it's completely sample free, and I know vaporwave.
Yeah.
Many artists that do not sample at all. I'm thinking probably Don't a Lens, maybe they sample themselves. Oh, they do sample, obviously. But they also play their instruments and stuff.
But I mean, I don't think my sound is, but I think they're all I think they're all similar enough, and they're all kind of in the same aisle in the supermarket. It's all cereal. Yeah, so maybe you want
We're going into the mall.
one brand today and another brand tomorrow. Yeah, it's that's how I see it. It's like if you like, I'm making a pretty weird connection here with cereal. Maybe I'm hungry. We did mention this morning, right?
Let's go with it.
But yeah, if you like cereal of a certain type, you probably like a lot of them, and that's kind of how I see it. So it's, if you're kind of into this, I mean, they're pretty specific subgenres, I would say. You probably like quite a few of them if you like one of them. That's how I would see it. So
okay.
I think
you like this. You'll like this.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Get a box of NiElsir, and then you move over to the Allison aisle.
Yeah, they're on the same shelf,
Yeah, same shelf. Yeah, of course, they're next to each other.
Well, I don't want to say that I'm on the same level, but same part of the supermarket. But yeah, it's I think once people go down the rabbit hole of this type of music, they're pretty open-minded to begin with, and they're probably pretty open to hearing different sounds and different methods of making a soundscape in a way, and of the tracks themselves. So I think in that way they fit together quite nicely. Of course, you're going to have diehard fans, and they will be strict on the genre. This is not X and Y because it doesn't have this ingredient.
Get a lot of them.
I mean, fair enough. They enforce the rules,
They're the gatekeepers.
Yeah. But I'm pretty open to breaking those rules. If it sounds okay when you're making it and you're enjoying it, that's what's important. And whatever the sound is at the end of it is almost irrelevant. If that's the only way you're going to make it.
Having a traffic accident outside, or trying to create one.
Probably a bit of double parking, I think. Pretty standard here. The parking here is something particular. Yeah, it's special.
Do you drive out there?
I do, yeah, but I mean not much. I left my car in London and another tribe reference there. Very good.
Very good.
I drive Rebecca's car, my partner, and it took a bit of a getting used to. I'm actually going to close that window because this could go.
Okay, dude.
1 second.
Sorry, Tom.
That might be a bit better.
There. I'm sure Tom can get rid of that in the edit. Or the last podcast they did with Whitewoods had the lovely tones of a child playing in the background. So it's
that's quite nice.
Ambience.
Yeah.
Well, you've done some collabs recently, although not with Alison yet.
No, I've never worked with Alison. Maybe someday. It would be nice, but I've done quite a few over the years now.
John Dunder. As Mes Dunami, I never know how to say his name.
I think that's right. That's right, yeah. There's been a few now, and I'm actually working on quite a few at the moment too, but I mean, some of these have been going on for a long time.
6 whole years.
Yeah, there's one that's, it's over a year we've been working on the song. Some of them take a while, it's
so when you're working internationally as well, or continentally, it's probably hard, right?
But yeah, John Thunder was actually my first collaboration in this world, and his too. So we were fresh at the time.
Yeah, that's a bit of a coup for both of you.
Yeah, it was. It's going back a few years. I think 2020, it might have been 2021, early 2021.
So kind of mid pandemic. And did you reach out to him, or did he reach out to you?
I'll tell you what happened. And I would call John kind of a friend now. We don't keep in touch as much as we used to because he's had a baby boy a couple of years ago, and he's a busy man now. So it's we don't keep up as much as we used to, but we still chat every now and then and catch up. And it was a funny one. I think at the time we had both been contacted by Stratford Ct, the label, Andrew, and we had submitted a song for their secret selection, like maybe 61 to 70. It's going back a few years now. I can't quite remember, but John wrote to me, and it was like kind of a reply to a story on Instagram, right? So it was like, sounds good, thumbs up, whatever. And we just started chatting about synthesizers, like, as you do. Geeking out straight away. And we said, we should work on something sometime, we're both going to have a similar sound with with some like nuances to it, like using acoustic instruments here and there with electronic sounds, and John's quite decent with the guitar.
Okay,
so
that features a lot on his.
I sent him a few demos, and when I say demos, I mean they are rough. Like
it's like 2 a.m. loops you were talking about.
Exactly, yeah. So I'm not a perfectionist in the slightest when it comes to demos. Everything just gets thrown in, and if it sounds good, I'll work on it afterwards. But it's really rough, so it's almost embarrassing to send demos.
Were you like, John, I've got something to share, don't judge me?
Yeah.
2 a.m. loop.
So I did send him one which was called, the demo was called OB's House. It was like, because I used a synthesizer called like an OB6.
Okay.
My favorite synthesizer.
You can drop all those in, because there'll be people that want to know what you use.
So that was where it came from. There was a song that we finished, John and I, Altra Stratus, originally called OB's House, because the demo that I wrote came from the OB6, right? It was a sound on there, and it was really, really rough. And I sent it over to John, and didn't hear anything for like 4 or 5 days, which, I mean, that's...
In your mind, were you thinking, he fucking hates it?
I don't know what I thought. He asked for the stems, like the individual parts, and I'm thinking, like, God, like, I mean, this is hardly worth even printing out of the workstation here, because some of this stuff is so bad. But 4 or 5 days later, he sent back this like revised like kind of structure, and I was like, what the hell is this? It was complete transformation. I was just blown away by it. Yeah. And
he took your stems and he just reworked it, and he said, thanks very much.
Yeah. So he kept the original stems in there, but redid some of the parts and pitched something up in a way that I wouldn't have heard it, and then sent it back. And I was kind of like flabbergasted by the sound and how quick it had come together. You know, it was like, whoa. It was a very easy and pleasant experience working with John on that one, because he sent me back the stems then, and I spent another few days working on a few bits, and we changed a few parts around and sent it back. It was like tennis almost. I sent him back another bunch of stems, and he added a few parts and took a few bits away, sent it back to me, and we were just kind of like, yeah, let's just call it. That's probably it, you know.
That's very cool. That's very collaborative and very...
it was a nice experience,
working with a maestro.
Yeah,
and
he's
probably
great.
Like that element of like, you're both bringing something to the table, and you're both sparking ideas that you may not have had individually, I guess.
That's to me, that's the key, is like, if you work with someone who does things that you would never have considered doing yourself, it's perfect. You know, it's like, oh, wow, that's what I need. You know, you need someone to steer things in a different direction, and then you adapt to that, and you change, and the song becomes something that you could never have done on your own. You know, it's that's, to me, that's a big part of the magic of the collaboration. It's where something is directed from both parts, and you end up with something that is just different, I guess, to both of your sounds, but also has enough elements of it to still fit, you know, which
distinct in your own.
Yeah.
Did you come away with that, having new ideas for your own work? Did you think, okay, well, that sparks an idea over here, and I'm going to go and do my loops? And
I think so. I did, for that song in particular, I did do something quite different. So he sent back like guitar stems and like a guitar melody from the start of the song, and I used a what's it called? Melodyne is the name. It's a piece of software that like vocalists use. So like if you had someone singing, this piece of software like breaks the audio up into notes, and if you have like an A sharp that's slightly flat, you can drag that particular note up to it's like auto tune, but more manual.
That's where my mind was going, but then I'm quite a Luddite.
no,
you didn't want to say
in the right place.
Like auto tune, Rob.
It's auto tune, but you can do it kind of manually. You can manually tune things. So I actually put his guitar into the auto tune thing and moved some of the notes of the guitar to like different notes. So it was like the weirdest thing, and I've used it more than once since then to like change audio parts into different notes, or to make a chord slightly different after the fact.
Oh, so is there John Dunter guitar stems secretly secreted into your work?
Oh, no.
Do you owe him sample credits? Oh, here we
He's
go.
He's got to come out to me for sampling. Yeah, I'm done.
Only joking.
No, but so it's something I learned from that process. I think it was just something different.
That's ace, man.
Yeah, it was cool. Yeah, I really enjoyed working on that song with John. To be honest, all the collabs I've done have been all very, very, very pleasant. You know, it's been
It seems like a nice scene.
Oh, the scene's very nice, yeah. And I guess I've tried to work with people that I kind of know already. Like I've been chatting to them for some months or whatever. It definitely makes it easier. It's not like I don't know you, I don't know how you work, I don't know anything about you, but now we're going to embark on this journey to try and get something together. To me, that would be quite difficult, I think.
Like Married at First Sight.
Yeah, I would find that tough. So I would try to stick to people that I know, and that's. I mean, no, in even a light sense. It's just I've talked to them,
rapport.
Yeah, quite a few times, and then we know a little bit about each other, which makes it a bit easier to.
You've gone on a couple of dates. You're ready to take it to the next level.
Exactly. Yeah.
You've been chivalrous.
Yeah. So that's how it goes. It's
Well, in that 6 years then that you've been in Spain now, and you say that's been the entirety of your output. So what's that? 20 singles, an album, Contraflow Continuum.
Yeah.
They're pretty prolific.
It doesn't feel like
your
it.
mind is that not? No, yeah, I was going to ask about.
Yeah.
That. Have you seen a development in the way that you've approached music in that time or your production, or do you feel like you're hitting your stuff, going, I should have had 30 albums out in 6 years?
There is a part of that. You think that you can get more done than you really can, or that you can be more productive than you can. I definitely have that, and I definitely feel like I should get more stuff out. I guess
quality over quantity.
Well, yeah, I guess that's true too. Yeah, it's I guess the sound over time, or my process has changed in some ways. In maybe not for the better, like from my side of things, it's the more you do it and the more you get used to it, maybe you fall into some habits of like, I'm going to use this sound with this sound and this effect, and you just have like a comfortable loop of things that you can go to. And also the more comfortable you get and the more confident you get with doing things, I personally find it quite easy to overcomplicate things, or like it's just too much, or you spend too long working on certain things where that's not really important.
Right.
Whereas if I went back to like my earlier stuff, I just didn't know that. So some of the stuff I didn't know
what you don't know.
Yeah, so it was fine. It was like, that sounds okay. I'll just call that done, and I'm not going to overcomplicate this. So that's done. And so now I find myself looking at things, going, "What am I doing? Like this is fine. Like this, spending 2 days working on the last percentage in my mind of something it's too easy to happen, and you got to I find myself pulling myself out of that a lot and taking things away and making
it back, like you say, like simple is sometimes more effective.
Yeah, trying to make it more simple without losing whatever made it the better sound that I kind of was attracted to in the first place. I want to keep that, but make it interesting enough that it's not just completely background, but also not overcomplicated so much that it's like, whoa, you can only listen to this if you're focused 100%. That's
you don't want to completely Starbucks your output, but you want it to be able to I don't know, like melt into it. I guess from memory, I think each track you've done, you've written your influences and inspiration for it. I think on Bandcamp some of those.
Yeah, quite a lot of them. Yeah, quite a lot of them I would write what was going on in the few weeks that I was working on it, which I think influences the sound, It definitely influences things or sends you down the path that you mightn't have gone down otherwise.
It's quite nice, they're like little diary entries. It's nice to understand what the artist was thinking when they, got the ideas for the track and the melody and stuff. And where do those come from typically? Your kind of ideas and your inspirations. Could you just be walking in somewhere in beautiful Spain, or sitting in a car jam in beautiful Spain?
It's actually kind of, to me, it's more the inspiration of the sound itself comes from the little studio, the working here and just saying, okay, this morning I'm going to try and make some sounds. Like normally making the sound will lead to something. So that's kind of like the process in a way. It's and the song will come from that, and I will go outside. Like I like cycling here in summer, or just going for hikes and stuff. That'll almost be a complete detachment from that world. It's like I'm going out to get away from that, because like I've been overstimulated for 8 hours or whatever over the last couple of days, and I'll go out without listening to anything because my ears will be tired. It's just. Okay. You just need to switch off. For me, anyway, I need some time to switch off.
Yeah.
And just focus on climbing up the next hill or whatever it might be that day, or suffering in the heat or the cold, which is just a nice contrast for me. And then you come back and you can go back working for a few more hours. Whereas if I was out and still kind of engrossed in listening to things or stimulating my mind in a way, when I come back, I'd be done. I wouldn't be able to get back into working, I think. So
that kind of, you get your battery energized. And
maybe. Yeah, it's a good way. That's a good way of saying it. Yeah.
Got the silence to kind of crack on with it. You're not somebody who's out there field recording with microphones.
Definitely not. No, definitely not.
Too much.
It'd be too much for me, I think. Yeah, it's already. I mean, every year it seems like your attention is being pulled at more and more by all sorts of stimulus. I mean, even if I was to open up like my workstation now, for example, there's probably something will need to be updated, and it'll be sending a pop-up to update it, and maybe I'll get so fed up that it's doing that. I'll click OK, update now. And then it opens up your browser, which has 45 tabs already open. And you just, suddenly you've lost 2 hours. Yeah, it's like, oh no, what happened?
What happened to that music, man?
Yeah, what happened my productive morning,
I've got somebody telling me I've got to update this or check my antivirus software.
Exactly. Anything can pull you out of it now. So it's, at least I find it quite delicate. And like, if you get into a mind of, you're actually focused, I kind of protect that pretty well, and I can disappear from the world for a few days quite often, just to try and keep myself in those things.
It sounds like you've got a very disciplined approach to making music.
I don't
treat it like a, it's not frivolous. You don't just enter something lightly, is what I'm getting.
I guess so. Yeah, I would like to be more disciplined and have more of a structure and that, but I've tried. It's an uphill battle for me. That it's something I've always tried, and I've always just fought out of it again. And I think I was talking to my friend Kyle, who is Division Street.
Oh, cool! Hey, their set was fantastic.
Oh my god! Yeah,
I downloaded that live at the Academy EP.
Unbelievable! Yeah, unbelievable.
They took it to the next level with hiring out a theater or something.
Yeah, it was in their studio. Angles. It was phenomenal production. It was really ridiculously well done.
Yeah, it was ace.
So myself and Kyle chat a lot. We're pretty good friends from the scene.
Collab, maybe?
Well, we actually have done one. So I have a song on his last album, on Summit. We have a song, and we do have a few in the works for a long time. Nice. We've been working on a few, yeah. But yeah, the two of us we're actually quite similar. So we have a lot of things in common. It's all or nothing. And so he sent me like stems. We're talking like maybe 2 years ago. And it took me 6 months to open it. It's like, sorry, Kyle. Yeah, I've opened that up, and I'll have a look at it.
I got distracted, all right?
Yeah, and so we worked on it, and I sent it back to him, and then he took a few months to work on it, and then he sent me back something. So it's like you send it back, and it's like I'll have a look at that sometime in the next, half a year, maybe. It's like,
carry on with your life. Don't hold your breath.
It's not
so much get a coffee, but it's
it's not it's not out of disrespect, right? It's just like when you're not in the mindset of a certain song, you can't really force yourself through it. It's not like lifting bricks, It's just you can't say I'm going to do X amount of hours and have this much output. It's like you can do a week's work and have nothing to show for it. It's pretty common for me, and that happens with some demos you're working on, some songs. You just open them up and go, I just don't know what to do with it. I just need to wait until someday that I hear something, or who knows when that's going to be, next week or it's going to be next year. That's fairly
You keep
common.
Everything. You don't do a sort of alt delete and.
Oh no, they're all kept. Yeah, they're all kept. And I've gone so far off on this tangent now, I don't even remember what the question was.
It's all right, man. We're just having a nice little chat. Yeah. But now you've talked about Division Street and you've talked about Stratford Ct. Why don't we talk about how you got in on the VSTV stream, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Love that. Was that in this room that you're in right now?
No, this is the room I work in. I mean, it's spare bedroom kind of a thing, but there's no bed. So it's
like
it's technically the studio now. Andrew from Stratford wrote to me last year. It was probably last summer, really, when it started coming together. And
you did a fantastic job. We've all the plaudits around that. Everyone's sort of saying, lots of people are saying it's like the best streaming gig festival, whatever they've seen. The quality of the artists, the quality of the tracks and the production and the audio and the visual, it was something else, man. So
it was
being part of it.
Oh, well, thank you. I was honored to be part of it, to be honest, and to be invited, and I was just worried about not doing enough, or, I wasn't sure. Like, no one really knew, because it was new, no one really had anything to base it on. And it took me too long to put together my set, because it was probably I overcomplicated things a little bit for my own set. I had multiple stems of each song at every one point. So at some points I just realized I've got 10 tracks playing here. Yeah, there's 10 audio channels up on this mixer, and it's like, oh my God.
You like to make things tricky.
That was too tricky. So in hindsight, I'm definitely going to simplify things down a bit. But it was, so we got invited into it, and it was kind of open. It was open, and like, it was just, do what you like, show yourself as an artist. And it was kind of like, okay, I don't really know where to go with that. I don't really know.
But you really handily had a screen behind you saying the names of the tracks coming up, which I liked.
Yeah, I was
did that.
I was happy with that.
Yeah,
it was
Shazam things.
That's another thing that was actually a complete nightmare. So my computer crashed. So the recording that you see on the set was, I think it was the third attempt that day. So
I'm sorry.
It just kept crashing. My PC was just not capable of running visuals and audio and projecting onto screens all at the same time. Is it
because you had 76 tabs open? Or?
It might have been the tabs, yeah. In hindsight, I should have closed some of the tabs, yeah. But no, it's an old enough PC now. It's, as PCs go, I was asking too much of it that day, I think, and it just flat out turned off a few times.
Let me be.
Yeah. So I learned a lot from that, and
would you be up for doing more now?
I think so. Like, I invested a lot of time in just figuring out how I would actually perform. I didn't want to just I'm going to jump back here, way back. I started off DJing as like a teenager, right? So, mixing
back
records.
In Ireland or London?
Back in Ireland, yeah. So as at the age of 14, 15, I kind of got into it from pirate radio. So I would be on pirate radio shows.
Nice.
That was a big introduction to like the world of what I would have called back then underground music. We could play whatever we wanted.
Enzo will like this. With pirate radio.
Pirate radio in Cork City is where I'm from, right? So pirate radio in Cork.
And what year around it is?
This is like probably from 2003 to 2009. I'm going to say like around that era. That was like, there was more pirate radio stations in that city than there was like legitimate stations. I'm not joking.
That's weird. That's kind of like London in the late 80s.
Yeah, so that happened in Cork in early mid. Even before that, there was like Radio Friendly in Ireland was a big thing in the late 90s, early 2000s. There was a huge scene, and house music was massive in my city. Right. And I loved house music at the time, and I used to play like deep house at the time. That's what I used to play on records.
Your journey from hip hop, we're going into house.
that was kind of where simultaneously I would listen to house and hip hop growing up as a teenager. I liked them both, and I played jazz drums on the side, which is another massive.
About that,
that's another kind of a funny influence there. But
that's the side hustle.
Yeah,
jazz wave,
yeah. I haven't played drums in 10 years, maybe more now. My drum set is like under my bed in Ireland.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so I always said, I'll ship them off to wherever I live, and I've only ever lived in apartments since then, so it's. I don't think I'd be too popular if I bring the full drum set over here. But someday I hope to get it over. But yeah, I'm going off here. But yeah, that background of DJing was kind of something I always loved. I loved DJing, and mixing records live was something I loved as a teenager and playing. So performance-wise, that's the only performance background I had, was DJing on the radio or at the same time. I did for some years.
Clubs and stuff.
Clubs, but I mean, I was underage, right? So I was like 15, 16 at the time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that was a bit of a tricky one. So there's a DJing.
Are they quite tight on
100%
stuff like that?
Yeah, especially if you were actually DJing there, it was pretty.
From what I've heard, you can drive without a license, but Don't be trying to DJ in clubs.
Don't be DJing, yeah, 16, 15, yeah. But I was really lucky. So there's a DJ in Cork, Stevie G. He's anyone who's from Cork that's hearing me talk will know who he is.
Shout out Stevie G.
Great guy. When I was younger, he got a lot of young people. He introduced them into the other artists, and he would help them on shows. He would interview them on the radio, and he actually worked on the legitimate radio station.
the one.
Yeah, one of few. Yeah. So Stevie G got me. He got me a gig. So he used to perform in this in one of the clubs, and it was once a month. There was this night called Jam, right?
Okay.
And then once a month there was Jam Junior, which was like the underage version of the same nightclub night, but before.
That's very sweet.
Yeah.
Kids like my 9-year-old, could he go?
No, it was more like maybe 14 to 17-year-olds, 14 to 18, something like that kind of age group.
Jam
Junior. So he gave me, at probably the age of 15, like a gig there as like the resident backroom DJ, which was like the coolest gig ever at the age.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah, and he just said, look, it's the back room, you play whatever you like. So I'd be in there playing like all sorts of like obscure stuff. Yeah, really obscure, because I listened to a lot of weird music my whole life. Not weird, but like I could go from 1920s to 2010 in a heartbeat, you know, like, and anywhere in between. So I mostly played house music, to be fair, because it was kind of the scene. But at the time, I already knew I was like kind of in the wrong place, because people would be coming up asking for like Britney Spears' latest tune, and I'm thinking, I'm playing DJ. Yeah, I'm playing like Kerry Chandler or something like pretty deep house stuff here. So I'm not going to go play Britney Spears.
You're in the wrong club, man.
Yeah, you're in the wrong city.
Go back to school.
Yeah. So that was kind of tough, playing to the wrong crowd, you know, but I loved it. It was the best opportunity ever. I loved the time playing there. And I used to get like a few coins for doing it. I spent all the money on new records. So that was like a little cycle that funded itself.
Yeah.
So that was my performing background. And when it came to VSTV, I'm thinking, wow, I haven't done anything.
Draw from that experience.
Yeah, I was like, I haven't done anything for years. Like, it's been a long time. And I'm thinking, all I've ever really done in front of people was DJing, right? So I like the idea of mixing songs, like mixing from one song to the next and keeping the tempos and the keys more or less similar. So that's something I took into my set. I tried to like continuously mix songs from one to the next, which then the kind of the over engineering side of me and the kind of the geek, I guess, think, oh well, like, because I made the songs, I can now have each individual track of the song playing at any one point, and I can, you know, I can swap the bass line from one to the other, or I can do the drums from this and the synths from that, and like that gets very complicated very quickly. Yeah,
strip it back.
Yeah, so that was one of the challenges. How would I do this and also be able to play some of the synths lines, the main lead sounds live, or the bass lines live? Yeah. And how could I incorporate that without being, I didn't want to be just stuck to the keyboard, you know, like, so
I wanted to be authentic, right? You didn't want just to hit a button.
No, I wanted to have some mistakes in there, and which there's plenty. And
I didn't notice.
I did, but it was like, oh, it's good enough. I can't redo this.
it's as I say, it's authentic. It's real.
So I did have a way of playing, so I could play the synth, the lead sound, for example, and then when I just didn't want to play anymore because I had to like mix in the next song, I could just pull one fader up on the mixer, which would just be the original stem of the lead, so I could just replace that part of the song.
Yeah. You'd worked it all out.
But all this took me way too long, and then it's like, now that I've done it, it's like, at the time I was thinking, oh my God, I'm never doing this again. I've been like a month working on this thing, you know, for 20 minutes. But now that I've done it, and like I know these things, and
you've grown.
I definitely. So to answer the question you asked me yesterday, I do think that I would do it again. Yeah, and I would be up to like doing more shows. The only problem I see with it is that I'm guessing a lot of these shows would be in America. Which does,
in terms of live, probably
that world, live, to make it viable would be probably American based. I mean,
I've got quite the funds and time to do that right now, I guess.
It'd be tough, yeah. Probably could make it happen somehow, but it would have to be pretty well planned, and I'm not sure. I'm sure it's possible. We'll see how it goes. I'd definitely be open to it. I wouldn't say no flat out. I would say
that would be amazing to see, though. A bill with NiElsir and Alison, and
imagine, yeah. It's there's quite a few loopholes in it. Like, how do you bring your gear? Like, it's a lot of gear, so you'd have to really strip the gear down as well. Like you can't.
Yeah, I guess unless you could arrange to use each other's stuff, and
that's what I was thinking. Like a communal part of, like, we have a very powerful PC, we have a mixer, we have some decks if you want to play backing tracks, and we have 2 MIDI keyboards and whatever. Like, so you can kind of go there thinking, right, we're going to have a baseline of something that we can fall back on, and maybe I need to bring 2 other things. And but I mean, that's quite an already logistical problem, and
it's one for another day.
There's one for someone else.
But another virtual festival would be great, man. But as I say, it might. Yeah,
there definitely will be more virtual ones, I think. I noticed.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I was going to keep talking about the same topic there, but if you want to change it, go ahead, man.
Well, I was just thinking, like, we haven't talked about artwork yet.
Oh,
and who does that? Do you do that?
Yeah.
Again, everything the artwork beautifully reflects what you're putting.
Well, I'm kind of, I'm not going to say surprised you say that, but kind of in a way. Most of the artwork I've done myself, most of it, but not all. So Contraflow Continuum, the album was done by Andrew from Stratford. He did the artwork for the album, which is fantastic. And actually, speaking of collabs, John Dunder and I worked on the artwork for our song almost immediately after finishing the song. We ended up working on the artwork in the exact same manner that we did the song. It was like, here's an idea, we send it back, we send back a file, send back a picture, send back a tweak.
Very cool. So it was a complete collab, even when
that really was, even down to the artwork. God, I've brought myself off on a tangent where I can't remember what the original question was.
No worries. I was just wondering who did you have a consistent artist?
Or of course, that was it. The artwork. So before that, I think I've done all the artwork myself, unless I'm forgetting one.
String to your bow.
There is one song recently, Breath Focus, which was a lady from Holland wrote to me, asked if she could do an artwork for a song, and of course,
that's very cool.
That was cool, yeah. So
someone approaches you.
Linsky 101, I think is her name, Linda. So she made an artwork with a bike in it, which I was like, if there's a bike in it, you've won me. Because
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that. You were well chuffed with that artwork. Yeah,
so that was cool. But all the other ones, I mean, I'm not a visual artist, right? It's not something that it's not something I can do or want to do. Although I would love to be able to. Yeah. But I think about it like, if I was to start investing in doing my own artwork, that could become all I do.
All consuming.
Yeah, and I'm terrified of that. It's like, if I start doing that, I'm not going to be able to finish a song ever again. It's the last thing I need.
Add something else in my pile of things, right?
I just couldn't deal with the artwork. So the artwork I've made is all really simple. It's like the first 6 or 7 songs were all this picture from the same window in my old apartment.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Different skies from different days with like minimal, basic color, like saturation +4 and contrast -2. Really basic stuff.
That's the formula.
Yeah, that's it. Saturation and contrast. That's all you need. So they were really basic, and I've kind of kept, if I'm working on the artwork myself, it's normally pretty basic. It's like, I just don't want to overcomplicate my life so much that
and nor should you, because the music, as you say, you want it to be effective, simple with a small s. So you don't want to have like crazy artwork.
I would love to be able to make really nice things, but I know personally that I would get so into that, and I would just be not able to do both things. I just couldn't do it. Definitely not.
Don't do it, man. Don't do it. I'm telling you now.
So saying that, all the artwork comes after the songs. I do the songs. And something I have changed in the last few years, actually, which is, for me, it's a help, is I write 3 or 4 songs over like 6 or 7 months or whatever.
Wow, okay.
And I don't release them. So I can then afterwards say, right, I'm going to take off my music producing hat, and
close the door on it.
That's done. I'm not going to touch that for the next 6 weeks, and I'm going to schedule some releases. I'm going to work on some artwork for these songs. I'm going to do the paperwork side of it and registering with songs with various rights organizations or whatever. And I have to completely separate that off from the writing the music part. So I work like that now, whereas I write a bunch of songs, do all the administrative side of it and the artwork, and then maybe take a bit of time off to do some housework, whatever gets get dragged into.
Get the feather duster out.
You get the duster out.
Very compartmentalized. It's very disciplined. What do you do then when you're not making music and then making artwork in a very separate way, and then doing all the admin in a very separate way? Is this your full-time kind of role, if I may inquire?
This is all I do in that world. It's all I do for that. So if I'm not doing that, I'm going to be on the bike probably, or cooking and or eating, which is
and or eating.
Yeah, probably both. Pretty simple. I mean, I don't do anything crazy. Or going back home to Ireland, which going back next month.
Much often.
Not as much as I should or I would like to. I think it's a little bit complicated to travel now. It's just more difficult to get from this city to that city. It's like probably a 15, 16-hour round trip or something.
Oh, really?
Not a round trip, one-way trip.
Oh, my gosh.
For a 2-hour flight. Yeah, it's just messy, yeah. So
just because of the positioning of airports and things like that?
Yeah, so they got rid of a flight that used to go from Madrid to Cork City during COVID times, and that never came back. So now, like, I've got to get a bus to say to Madrid airport, would be the kind of the closer one. On the bus, that's like nearly 3 hours. Plus, you got to leave an extra couple of hours just in case, and then you got to be 2 hours early for the flight and all that stuff.
God, what a ball ache.
Yeah, and then you land in Dublin, and then it's like, Dublin to Cork is another like probably 4 hours.
Yeah.
By the time you get on the bus, and so yeah, it has complicated things a little bit, but I mean, it's not bad. It's not that it's expensive or anything.
It's a nice life, though, right? You wouldn't.
That's true.
Foreseeable. You're not thinking of moving back or going
in
away.
Spain. No,
this is now your home.
Yeah. For the foreseeable future, yeah. It's I never planned on it being this way. I never planned on living in and around London like I did or anything. It just kind of happens, and I'm happy here, so I don't see why it would change that. It's a nice life here. Pretty simple. I mean, it's not like anything crazy. It's just, the city I live in is pretty calm, and I don't do anything crazy here. Just walks by the river, and there's real winters here, and like there's pretty strong summers, so it's a nice contrast over the year.
Yeah, I was surprised. My buddy told me, who lives in Madrid, isn't it like the northest city, even more than like Geneva? And so it gets cold when it gets cold. Because it's not far from the mountains, or an hour away.
I'm not in the mountains, but I mean it's 1,000 meters elevation where I live.
Right.
But I mean I can see mountains over there that are 2,000 meters elevation, so you don't feel like you're up that high. But you can definitely go further north from where I am. I'm about an hour and 45 from the north coast, like I'm going to say Santander or Bilbao, those cities.
Okay.
But Burgos, where I live, is particularly windy and cold. It's like, and it's funny. I find the weather here kind of crazy. Like, I mean, if you go back a month ago, there was like 2 days where it was in the 30s. And then for the last 2 or 3 weeks, it was like struggling to get out of the like single digits every day.
Really?
Oh yeah. Overnight, it's just like, yesterday was 30, but today is maximum 5 degrees.
That is nuts. Yeah. What do I wear? What do I plan to do? It's
insane. Yeah, the contrasting weather here, but I actually don't mind it. I'm from Ireland, and Cork City, it rains a lot, and it doesn't rain much here, so I can deal with cold and wind.
You're well conditioned.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy here with the weather. Yeah.
Well, I'm very jealous. Hey, how did the name NiElsir come about?
Oh God, I'm going to bring us back in time again. I think it's in hindsight, I should have probably put more thought into the name. It was kind of like, that'll do, and I'll just,
It's not with the initial up, but then the small, and then the caps, and then the knot, and it's
that came afterwards, and I don't even know. I don't even know why I started changing the capital letters of it. But so the real history of that name is kind of funny. It's sort of a play on words, right? But so my actual name is Neil, right? That's my birth name.
I mispronounced it Niall at the start.
Well, that's going to play in nicely to this story, right? So my name is Neil, and it's an Irish name in the fact that on my birth cert, my parents have spelt it in Irish, which is technically Niall, the spelling. But in Irish, there's an extra character, which is like, it's called a fada. So it's like N-I fada, A-L-L. And the fada is like French accent. Yeah, so it's like the accent in French or the tilde in Spanish. And so that's how it's...
umlaut.
Yeah, well, I don't even know what that is, but I guess so.
German?
Maybe. Oh, no, I don't know any German. Nothing. But so that's the character, right? So that makes Neil in Irish. So if you translate my name back into English language, which I mean, it always is, I think technically it should be spelled differently, like maybe like NEIL or NIEL, or I don't know how.
Yeah, I guess traditionally it would be NEIL.
Yeah. So, but it gets just translated almost identically into like NIALL, which spells Niall, right? Okay. So that's a little bit of history. And then fast forward into secondary school or like high school, whatever, that age. I went to an all boys community school, right?
Tough times.
And in Cork, yeah. Actually, in hindsight, it was all right. I still have friends from there, which was great. But it was a bit like an institution for some years at the start. It was like, but we had 100 or so students in my first few years there. And every morning we'd go in and it was like the assembly hall, right, for my year. And we'd all line up in our classes and there was like this deputy headmaster or deputy principal. He wasn't the principal, but he was like, up in the kind of the management part of the school. Yeah. So he would go through doing a roll call of everyone's name every morning by the list, like call you first the surname and you'd answer if you were here. And if you didn't answer, you were marked absent, and that you'd be, even if you came in later in the day. Yeah, the register. So he'd start down the list, whatever, like Avon Barksdale here, String a Bell here, Niall, Niall Mulcahy, and my response was always, it's NiElsir, right? So I always corrected them every morning. I would correct this guy, and after some years of doing this, it became that it wasn't just me answering anymore. So he would continue to make the mistake.
Did he do it deliberately? He was just winding you up at this point.
I don't know if he did. I think he actually just couldn't deal with it, because there was an actual Niall in my year as well, right? So,
so he's getting himself confused.
Yeah, so he would say Niall Mulcahy, and then everyone would answer. Not everyone, but there would be a decent bunch of people. Yeah, it's NiElsir, right? So that was how we'd answer it. So it's NiElsir became some people would just be taking the piss out of me and just saying that, and so NiElsir came from that. It's what should I call myself? It's like it's NiElsir. I'll get rid of the and just kind of drag it into one word, and
that's a good story.
It's got a funny origin. Yeah, it's a funny origin.
It's better than blooming Neon Moonlight or God knows what.
I don't know. It's what's funny about it, it doesn't really make any sense to anyone. It's just a word, but. I guess I kind of like that
best
too.
Ones. Yeah.
It doesn't mean anything, so I like that.
That's brilliant. You heard it here first.
That's where it came from, yeah. Probably the first person to actually ask that, so yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't think anyone knows where that name came from.
Oh, exclusive. FutureSounds exclusive.
Some of the people from that school might have put it together, but that's funny.
Yeah. Well, what are you working on now? What's in the pipeline? And what's have you got any exclusives for us, as well as the name origin?
I don't have anything crazy. So I've got a few collaborations which I'm working on, which a lot of them are on my plate at the moment, and I'm being terrible and not getting them done.
Balls in your court.
Yeah, for too many. I've got I've promised things back to people that I just haven't been able to get done in time, and that's tough. That's one of the problems with it. You commit to something and you can't get it back in a timely manner. But I mean, almost everyone understands the deal with that. It's pretty standard. So I've got a few of those on the go, which have been on the go for a long time. And I have, I'm still in two minds. I have a few singles sitting unreleased. I did tease one in the VSTV show. I played one Subception there that it's an unreleased song. Okay. And I've got a few more, and I'm kind of in that stage where I mentioned earlier, where I write some songs and I don't really plan what to do with them until I have a few written. Oh, excuse me. So I'm still in that stage, and loosely in the back of my mind, I'm thinking of a second album.
Follow-up.
Yeah, follow-up album, which would be
2029.
2042, I'm thinking.
That's okay. We'll still be around.
Yeah. So yeah, that hopefully, I mean, I would like to have that at least planned this year. If I go that route, I might not go that route yet. But if I did go that route, I would definitely want to have enough new material that I was very happy with, that sat nicely on an album.
Yeah.
And I've still, over the years, there's a lot of my songs that aren't on like any physical media. And people have been asking here and there, like, I mean,
would Stratford Ct put some physicals out, maybe?
Well, they've got my first album out, but there's songs that never made it onto that album, and songs that I've released as singles before and after that just don't exist on physical media. So
set of B-sides.
I'm thinking, yeah, maybe I can get, if I had an album and some of the older released songs fit nicely into the album, I might try and squeeze a few in so that they exist on some sort of like release, or maybe it's just going to be like past collection of songs, and here's 8 songs that were never released physically before. But, you know, it's not an album per se; it's just kind of a compilation of previous released stuff.
Mind you, for all we know, they're brand new.
Yeah.
The audience doesn't know.
If it's a new audience.
God, he did that album quick. He was telling us 2042.
Yeah. I'm going to over-deliver.
Under promise, over deliver. Great.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I'm working on. It's just trying to keep the momentum going in that side of things, and and being happy with the sounds I'm making. I think is the most challenging part. Is just getting enough material that I love, or at one point did love.
You seem like a man who has to be 100% satisfied before you're going to.
To a point, I do get to a point where I'm very much like 90% is good enough. You know, like I don't care that it's not perfect in a few areas towards the end, because only probably me being overly technical in that moment will notice that, and some experts might notice. But does it really matter? I mean, some of my favorite songs are absolute awfully technical, mixed, and like it doesn't matter. You know, like if the song is good to me, it's good. You know, if it doesn't tick all the boxes of the perfect audio engineering guidebook, 99.9% of people don't really care. You know, it's in my view. Nor do I.
And maybe they're streaming it on something awful anyway, and they're not hearing the nuance. Perhaps.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's that's something which I just don't get too lost in. If it sounds good enough on enough outputs, like the speakers, headphones, in your car or whatever, if it sounds reasonable to me there, that's fine. And I don't want to go too down the rabbit hole of just like trying to perfect it to be perfect everywhere, which in a way is almost compromising it on everything, because it can't be perfect for every scenario with the sound. The way it's mixed and mastered, it's just
no. Do you do your mastering yourself?
Yeah, pretty much all of it. So that's another one of the slight worries, where you can get into something too much and focus too much on the part that maybe is just, too much perfume on something. It's just, it's just more is not always better. Like,
no, pongy.
Yeah, especially when it's your own material, because if I'm at the point of a song where I'm now mastering it, I've probably heard the song, sections of the song, in the hundreds of times, if not more. Certain loops where you've been working on them, and you don't hear it the same anymore. It's like
no.
It's like being in a smelly room for hours, and you leave and come back. It's what? Like, what's in this room?
Who did the bad thing in the corner?
Yeah. How have I acclimatized to this? But it's the same thing with sound. You can hear an awful noise in your left ear for 5 hours, and by the end of it, you just don't notice it anymore. And then 6 weeks later, you listen back and go, "Whoa, has that been there the whole time?" It's like your brain just dulls that out and adapts to it. So when you're mixing and mastering your own things, that's always a worry I have, is that I've heard this a lot.
Not hearing it anymore.
Yeah, so you got to leave a bit of time and do a few little tricks here and there to try and hear it a bit different. But I try not to overdo it too much on that side of things. It's just, it's good enough, get it done, get it released, and move on to the next one. That's probably the way to go, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, I hope the listeners didn't hear my stomach rumbling just then. We probably should wrap it up soon, because we've had a great chat. I think this is going to be a good one.
I feel like we've been chatting, pretty loosely for, at least I have. Sorry.
That's what it's all about. We don't want question, answer. We like a chat. Glenn Jones, the brilliant Glenn Jones, who's a great designer, does a lot of stuff with My Pet Flamingo and Time Slave and stuff like that. And used to do our posters when we used to have the Forever Synth show many years ago. He's asked 3 questions.
Okay.
And they're very simple.
Hope so.
Favourites. Good old Glenn. What's your favourite cheese?
Right.
Yeah. What's your favourite drum machine?
Okay.
What's your favourite synth?
Okay. Favourite cheese? I don't eat cheese.
You don't eat cheese?
No. But
a man from Cork?
Yeah. I used to eat cheese, and if I was to eat cheese tomorrow, it would be the most mature cheddar, white cheddar, like really brittle.
Oh yeah.
Extra hard, mature cheddar cheese from Cork.
You don't like a soft cheese or a blue?
No, blue. No.
Stinky blue.
Soft cheese, yeah, okay, like a brie in the oven with a couple of cloves of garlic is also very dangerously good. So in the past they would have been my favourites, I think.
But really hard, brittle Cork cheddar. Really
mature cheddar cheese, yeah.
Oh,
so good.
I'm going to make a cheese sandwich for lunch.
Yeah.
Drum machine?
Wow, favourite drum machine. I don't own any drum machines. And nor have I ever, but like as in physical ones. I do use quite a lot of libraries from drum machines. Probably my favorite of all time, as in the one I use the most, is probably like the DMX or the drum tracks. I like the snares and kick drums from those, but I just use the samples of them now. And favorite drum machine. Yeah, see, that's a funny one. I love, I'm slightly going off here, but I love cymbals, right? So like ride cymbals, hi-hats, probably because I used to drum, and that was like one of my favorite sounds. Like a nice ride cymbal is like the best sound ever to me. And nice hi-hats with variation in the hi-hats, like that's something I have a lot. I mean, a lot of hi-hat samples and ride cymbal, and I spend a long time working on that. So that's stuff that doesn't come from drum machines that I have, and most of my songs would be hi-hats and ride cymbals from real drum kits, like real samples. To me, that's like really, that's really important. And the kick and snare would be often from old drum machines. DMX drum tracks would be go-tos. I probably prefer those two out of all of them, I think,
Nice. Yeah. And favourite synth?
Oh, it's easy and complicated. I think my favourite is the DSI or Oberheim, however you want to call it, the OB6.
Okay.
I don't own one anymore, so I've had one and sold it, and it's been a while since I've had it, but like I love that synth. I'm probably going to rebuy one again sometime in the future.
Right.
And yeah, it's been that, and I did have a Novation Peak, which is like kind of a module. They're the two. I've had a lot of synths, and I buy them maybe for a year and then sell them again secondhand and buy another one. It's kind of just cycling through them all the time. Those two are the ones that hurt me the most that I sold. Like I still go, oh, why did I sell that? Like, that's kind of that's a good sign. That was one that I liked. If I kind of a few years later still feel bad that I sold it, it's like
hang for it.
Yeah,
you'll have to get another one.
I'll have to, especially the OB6. That was probably to me that was a special sound. You can almost not go wrong with that one. You can sit down, whatever you do will sound reasonably good, you know. It's, and I do have one here at the moment. It's a Hydrosynth. It's like it's not an analog synth at all. It's purely digital, and it's different. You know, it's not as it's more. So the reason I really like the OB6, and it's going to jump back to that one, is that almost everything you do is just right in front of you. It's like knob per function, right? It's like any control you want, you can see it, and the more you use that synth, the more you get comfortable with like kind of just default reaching for something, and you know how the filter works, and you know how the envelopes are tweaked, and you get very familiar with that, which is a nice way to work because you don't get too lost in the sauce of it all. You know, it's but then there's like the nerdy side of me and the engineer side of me that loves to overcomplicate something or to get really into it.
As
you
we've
know,
learned.
yeah. And the Hydrasynth is like
all the knobs.
Yeah, the Hydrasynth is the dream for that. It's got like so many possibilities because it's digital, and it's like having not fully, but it's like having all the possibilities of a virtual instrument, but in kind of a hardware format with like reasonably well thought out controls.
Okay.
So I do like that one too. That's been here I've had that one for a few years, maybe even more, and I haven't sold it. So
is that what you would mostly kind of write on?
So I love making sounds on hardware synthesizers, but I don't use them exclusively. I use a lot of software stuff.
Okay.
I like the hardware side of it, not because it sounds better or it sounds different. Sometimes I actually prefer the sound of the software ones. And I prefer the options that you can get with a software one. In some ways, there's a bit of an asterisk on that, but that's for another day. What I like about hardware synths is that I can turn it on and it's not like right in front of my computer screen, and I can go over to the hardware synthesizer and lose 2 hours working on one sound. And then maybe I'll record that one sound in, and that would be like the bed of a song from that point on. But I don't think I could ever spend 2 hours working on a sound on a computer. I like with the mouse and the keyboard.
You need that physicality.
Yeah, you lose your attention much faster. At least I do. And there's so many options there, and you know, there's a pop-up or a notification or something will just drag me out of it before. There's no way I'm spending 2 hours, right? So
no.
That's, to me, that's the special part of a hardware thing, is like that's a whole other like world over there, and I can get into it and lose a few hours, make a sound that I couldn't do otherwise, and then go from there. You know, then from that point on, just record a sound in and then call it quits on that sound. And maybe a lot of the time that sound doesn't even make it to the final song. You know, it's just.
But it might influence something else.
Yeah, it gets you down a path that you wouldn't have got on otherwise, and that's as important as anything. You know, it's, to me anyway. It's So
well, we should probably call it. What are you spinning at the moment? What are you listening to?
This week I've been listening to a lot of instrumental hip hop again, which happens a lot. And I haven't been writing any music for the last like 10 days, so my computer was like dying, so I had to change a load of parts in that and try to keep it alive for another few years. And
Stay with me.
Yeah, put in a new hard drive. And I had some I cloned the hard drives, but like there was issues with plugins not recognizing, like, I think they're licensed to the hardware code or something. I don't know. I had some issues with that, so I've kind of gone down a little bit of a kind of a rabbit hole with getting that sorted again. And meanwhile, I've been listening to a lot of you may or may not know this guy. He's called Damu the Fudge Monk.
I don't know. Bet my mate Dan would.
He is kind of like underground old school hip hop sound, but he's like releasing it in the last 10-15 years.
Send me a link.
I will. I'll send you one after the show. Yeah, How It Should Sound 1 and 2 is a fantastic instrumental album. So yeah, really, really easy listening. It's easy to listen to. It's nice instrumental hip hop. So I've been listening to quite a lot of him lately. It's like my go-to kind of background. Not in a bad way, but it's nice to listen to in the background while you're like focused on doing some other bits of work. And it's so that's kind of been the tone of the week for me, I think.
Hey, did you hear Lavender Town's album?
No,
with all the vowels missing. Lavender Town.
I don't think so. I'm
Johnny
not familiar.
From Iverson, and he did an album recently. You can get it on Spotify, Bandcamp, all the rest of it. It came out on My Pet Flamingo, I think. And,
what did you call it? Lavender Sounds with all the vowels bits.
Lavender Town, Town. So LVNDRTWN. And it's very different to his work with Iverson, and he said he was influenced by a lot of old hip hop when he was making it, and it has got that kind of lo-fi hip hop beat type vibe to it with a little bit of touch of vaporwave in there. So yeah, see what you make of that. Brilliant. Hey dude, it's 11 o'clock. We should probably my time.
Already
midday. It's lunchtime where you are.
It is midday. Yeah, it's 12. Yeah, I can't believe it. That flew.
This has been lovely. We should probably wrap it up.
Yeah.
Go and do some day job work. Is there anything else that you want to say that we haven't touched upon, or anything that you're like, oh, we didn't talk about this, and let me just tell you this?
In the fear of getting, taking up more time and going off on more tangents, I don't think so. But just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity and the interview. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks so much.
Thanks to everyone who listens to my music, and to Stratford for releasing my stuff. It's all very much appreciated, and I really value that a lot. So I do have one question for you.
Yeah, of course.
How or from where did you find my music? How did you stumble through that from the Vaporwave site, or how did you get into it? Where did it come from?
Yeah,
that link?
It was probably 1.5, 2 years ago, maybe, and it was probably down a rabbit hole. Stratford Ct probably introduced me to it, I suspect.
Yeah, I see. I think I got a lot of listeners from Stratford. It's been a big thing for me. Yeah,
it would have been that, or did one of the YouTube stuff, and your track came up, and then I went on to explore more, or it might have even been Spotify suggestions.
Oh, right, yeah.
I think you might have popped up a track or two, and then I went back and then I bought like 3 or 4 tracks in succession, your singles, and I was like, this guy's. Well, I didn't know who he was. It might have been a lady for all I knew, and I didn't understand NiElsir. But I thought, well, this is great. This is really good stuff. This is right on the street. So brilliant, man. Been
Cheers.
Really
Thank
happy
you.
to have sat down today. And
it's been very pleasurable chat, really. To be honest, I've enjoyed
lovely. Let's stay in touch.
Yeah, absolutely.
And swap hip hop stories.
I'm going to send you on a link. Like in the next 5 minutes, you'll have something.
Fantastic.
So don't worry.
Well, I'm going to hit stop on the.